Hey everyone, welcome to another monthly Q&A video. In this video, we're going to be discussing a lot of things happening in Grim Sky because the new season should be starting soon. However, I am recording this in advance. I'm recording it on August 30th because I'm going on vacation. So I should be gone in the first week where Grim Sky is out, which means that if anything happens between August 30th and when Grim Sky releases, like any big changes happening, I won't be discussing that in this video. So sorry if anything I say is incorrect by the time this video comes out. And our first question comes from Mr. G Knight, saying, Hibana's getting a nerf. You need 4 pellets to break a hatch and the bearing 9 recoil is getting nerfed. Do you think she should at least get more ammo in her Type 89? I feel like it would be quite reasonable to make her still balanced. To answer quickly, no, she shouldn't. The reason why Hibana is getting nerfed so much is because she is arguably one of the most picked operators in the entire game. In some matches now, people are even choosing her over Thermite, even if they're going to somewhere like a garage, because opening up a bunch of peek holes is generally better than opening up a giant hole for everyone. I wouldn't even consider the SMG sidearm recoil nerf to be a direct effect on Hibana. Everyone's getting affected by that, and no one should get buffed because of it. The SMG sidearms for too long were way too powerful. There should be no situation in this entire game where a secondary weapon is more powerful than a primary. The only exception is someone like Cav, where it's tied into her ability. But no one should be able to walk around with an SMG sidearm and just shred everyone because, well, it's going to kill them before they can even see them. The 4 pellets needed to break a hatch is a direct nerf to her. But I'm still fine with how she is. She does not need more ammo. I have absolutely no proof of this, but I imagine that the way Ubisoft balances out the operators is that they give individual scores for each of the operators' key components, like weapons, gadget, utility, all these different things. And I'm sure Hibana's is way too high across the board. So by nerfing her gadget a tiny bit and then having her weapons be brought down to normal levels, she should be more in line with everyone else. So I think Hibana will be fine the way she is. And also a lot of people saying that Hibana should still be able to break hatches with 1 pellet. I kind of agree that she shouldn't be able to because otherwise Maverick would be able to destroy any hatch with 1 quick burst of his gun, which would make him way too overpowered. So I'm perfectly fine with what they're doing to Hibana. She definitely needed to come off the 90% pick rate across the board. Second question comes from Mello asking, how do you think Clash and Maverick will play out in high plat diamond lobbies? So obviously this is all pure speculation. I have no data to prove this since the operators aren't even out yet. I think Maverick will be played a decent amount, but he'll be a direct replacement for either Thatcher or Twitch. He's not going to replace Hibana or Thermite. You're still going to need those hard breachers. However, I see his ability only really being used on sites that are in the basement or by like a garage or have an outside facing wall. Because really you only need him to counter bandit tricking. You don't really want to use him on a normal wall. But there's obviously exceptions to this. So I think Maverick will see some play as a support player, but that's about it. And then Clash, I think, is probably not going to be used at all. She is, in my opinion, one of the worst DLC Defender operators to ever come out, and I don't think she'll see play at all. However, a lot of other people are claiming that she's actually fairly strong and that she could be used in the right hands. However, I think there's just far too many counters to her, and the fact that she can't actually kill anyone kind of makes it really difficult to play her. She can get those rare kills on people who are downed, or if people are really dumb and turn their back on her, she can pull out her pistol, but for the most part, she is just a walking shield, nothing more. At least someone like Monty can pull out his pistol or put down his shield in melee. She can't do that. Next question comes from Zyper asking, do you think the SMG secondaries were nerfed too hard, or do you think it was needed? So I kind of touched on this in the first question, but I wanted to make this its own thing as well. So I think the nerf is completely justified. Like I said, no secondary weapon should ever be more powerful than a primary weapon. However, that being said, it will change up a lot of the meta. Right now, the big meta is on bomb, you always bring a smoke with a shotgun, barbed wire, and an SMG-11. Now it's going to change to probably be smoke with an FMG-9, impact grenades, but still probably the SMG-11. So it's going to change up what people bring and how they really organize their utility. And I think SMG sidearms are going to be exactly where they should be, that they should only be used in panic situations when you have absolutely nothing else to help you. Kind of like pistols. Pistols are strong, you can use them in a 1v1 easily if you want to, but they're still weaker than a primary weapon. And that's exactly what SMG sidearms should be like as well. Something I saw in the comments on some of my YouTube videos, these were pretty good suggestions, people saying that SMGs should be made where they can't put any attachments on them at all, so you have to use iron sights and just the default barrel. And then they should still nerf the recoil just a tiny bit. Not as drastically as they have, but probably somewhere in between. I think that would also be a really good middle ground, because then SMGs won't have uncontrollable recoil, but they also won't have really good sights and barrels. So I think either keep it the way they have, that's perfect, or go to that suggestion that people mentioned. Next question comes from Guillermo asking, you talked in the last video of Q&A about having more people playing on your channel. Would Rob have his own videos, or could you make a 5-minute or so about the funniest moments, Rob? Stuff like that. So when I mentioned Varsity Gaming as a brand, I did mean as like a whole company overall, not just me playing video games by myself. I have no plans in the work right now of how to go forward with this. This is all just what I would hope to eventually happen, but things change. Maybe I won't want to do that, maybe I will, I don't know. It all depends on what happens with my friends, if they decide to come on board, and also what I decide. I haven't actually put anything in the works. This is all just speculation. I would ideally like to bring on more people, because sometimes the workload can be a little too much for me. Sometimes I spend 12 hours a day editing and recording and streaming. I would like to offload that work sometimes, but other times I really enjoy it. So I don't know. My ideal scenario would be in the future this would be more of a variety channel, and it would be a group of us playing whatever games we want whenever we want. But like I said, I don't know. Things change. Maybe that'll never happen. Maybe this channel will die if I try to make a variety. Who knows? It's too early to tell. Maybe in the next 6 months or so I'll actually have a plan out there for you guys to see. Next question from the Giant Panda saying, should console get its own TTS? I think it's not fair PC can get early access, but console can't. So this might sound a little mean when I say this, but tough shit. You chose a console, this is what you get. The reason why consoles don't get TTS is because of how limited they are. Microsoft and Sony don't allow companies to just patch a game whenever they want. The patches have to go through stages of approval. A company like Ubisoft would have to submit the patch to Microsoft or Sony and say, here's what we're going to change. Microsoft and Sony would run it through a test, make sure everything works, and then they'll approve it within a week. Companies are allowed to make emergency patches for stuff that's game breaking, but the last I heard, that's only allowed a limit of 1 emergency patch per month. So, since TTS is constantly changing, I think the TTS has been updated at least 12 times since it went live for Grim Sky. How would you possibly do that for console? If you have to update the game every 24 hours, it just wouldn't work. Microsoft and Sony would not allow that. And the whole point of this build is to see what works. So if, say, Ubisoft puts up the original TTS build and then there's some issues that they need to fix, they won't be able to patch it, they'll just have to leave the original one up. And then that's just a waste of their time, because you can't report bugs on an old build in case they were already fixed. Overall, there's just too many logistical issues, and if you really want to play TTS, then switch to PC. I know console is better for some people. There are situations where console just makes more sense, generally for people on a budget or who don't have a lot of money to spend on a PC, but you're also voluntarily choosing to limit yourself. It'd be like if you went to a car dealership and then bought the cheapest, shittiest sedan you could, and then you were complaining why it can't go on the track and beat NASCAR racing cars. If you choose the cheaper option, you're going to be more limited in the long run. Throwing in a non-siege question from Billy asking, what's my favorite episode of The Office? I think it's probably Stress Relief Part 1, just because of that opening scene where everyone's panicking and it's fucking hilarious. And then not to mention the rest of the episode is also fucking amazing, especially with Dwight in the CPR dummy. Waterlord asks, what operator do you get the most annoyed with on attack and defense? And I think everyone can agree with me in saying this. It is Lion. Lion is the stupidest, most unnecessary, and ridiculously powerful operator in the entire game. The fact that you can make an entire team stand still and punish them if they don't is just really fucking idiotic. I was really happy to hear the other day that apparently Ubisoft is considering completely rehauling Lion, just like what they've been saying with Tatanka, how they're going to completely change his entire character from the ground up, so they won't have the same ability anymore. I cannot wait for the day that Lion is finally fucking gone, because guess what? Global abilities are not fun. Next question from Oliver asking if I think operator gadgets are becoming more complicated, and also if it makes older operators more redundant. I didn't really understand what the example was, saying comparing Maestro to Capcan. I'm assuming you mean by complicated, not that Maestro is making Capcan redundant. But overall, yes, gadgets are getting more complicated in terms of what they can do with the environment, but that's about it. Overall, it's really not that hard to grasp. The base 20 operators do have very basic abilities, like not complicated at all, but that's just because you have to have those core fundamentals covered before you start getting into more complicated things. But I wouldn't say they're getting to a point where people are going to have an issue learning them just because of how complicated they are. They just work a little differently. Like, no one in the base game had anything that interacted with cameras, and now we have 3 defending operators that all have their own types of cameras. But they all make sense. They're very easy to understand. They're not too complicated. Alright, now we're going to go through a few quick questions. First one from Alex. Can you bring back Siege School? It helped me a lot. Like I've said before, Siege School has not gone anywhere. I'm just making it on my own schedule now. Instead of making it week to week, which made me want to blow my brains out, I now make it whenever the fuck I want. And whenever there's topics that actually interest me in covering them. I might make one for Grim Sky. I definitely will make a few more informational videos, not necessarily Siege School, but something like that. And next question from Lawponus asking, if you had to sacrifice Rob or Drew to get quality internet, which one would you sacrifice? If I had to, I'd probably choose Rob. Drew likes to learn the game and is actually getting a lot better. Rob is just a meme. But I won't actually sacrifice either of them because I love them and they're my idiots. Mason asking, do you think Siege should implement a theater/cinematic mode? 100% would love to see this happen because it's really hard to make machinima videos without a cinematic mode. I have heard rumors on Twitter that apparently they are looking to add one because, well, a lot of Siege YouTubers want it, but we'll see if it actually happens. When I talked to one of the programmers in Montreal when I was there for the invitationals, they said that they were looking at it, but it might not be a complete possibility based on how the engine's structured. Next question from Chronicle. What do you think about the new recoil patterns in the game coming out with Grim Sky? Overall, I do like them. A lot of the guns feel much more stable, and I actually can tell that I'm hitting shots instead of saying, what the fuck, why didn't that kill them? That looked like it was right in the head, which happened a lot with ACOG misalignment. Some guns are more recoilish than others, but overall, I do like the change, and I cannot wait to compare all the recoil patterns in the next few weeks. Question from Unicorn asking, what if Tatanka got a buff that made his turret shoot shield-piercing bullets? No. Horrible idea. Not trying to bash you, just saying that having an operator just completely counter another one is really fucking lame and wouldn't be fun for the game. I would rather them just completely rework and change Tatanka from the ground up instead of trying to make him relevant, because he's not. Question from Josh asking, do you think Castle should receive a buff or a rework? Castle is receiving a small buff in the next season because Glaz will no longer be able to shoot through his castle barricades. So that will actually help the team a lot. In terms of a rework or other buff, I think he's fine where he is. Castle's good in specific situations. He's more of an operator that wastes utility instead of completely stops people from doing things. People want Castle to kind of be the jack of all trades, when really right now he does his job well. He wastes utility. If you set up castles correctly, the attacking team has to use a lot in order to get them, or put themselves at a huge risk. If you set them up improperly, then they're going to be very easy to destroy. Question from Lorenzo asking, do you think an event like Outbreak will come back, or maybe a new type of event? I know the Siege team said that they really enjoyed working on Operation Outbreak and that it was one of the best things they ever made. I personally disagree. I think it was a huge waste of time, but I'm sure the development team would actually enjoy making it again and something different. I would just rather see those resources go to actually fixing the game instead of making new content that really no one played. And this is a whole nother rant, I'm not going to get into it, but just how awful Outbreak was in terms of the story being all over the place, the campaign making no sense, and the fact that you couldn't even play it in order. You had to just play a random order because their system doesn't really work that well. So overall, in my personal opinion, I hope they don't bring out another Outbreak, but I'm sure they probably will. The development team said they really enjoyed making it. Alright, and that will conclude our monthly Q&A. Thank you guys for all your questions. Hopefully nothing I said was incorrect by the time that Grim Sky comes out, but we'll see. I'll be back next month with another Q&A. If you do want to have a question for it, then make sure to be prepared. Basically, all you have to do is just go to the YouTube channel, hit on that community tab, and then generally within the first week of a new month, I will make a post asking for questions, and I'll record the video like 2 days later. This time was a small exception because I needed to make this video before I leave. But normally I'll make the post within the first week of a new month. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.